sometimes you might be okay with yourself until someone comes and begins to ask you very unnecessary questions. Like, your village people too can even help you to compare yourself. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to have you in this space today. Thank you so much for the shares, the likes, and the comments in the last video. So for today's video, I'm going to be talking about how to stop comparing yourself with others. The reason why I chose to talk on this topic was because of how it is so easy to fall into the trap of comparison and how it can even become a normal part of your mindset. We are living in a society that actually indirectly pressures people into wanting to become something, or rather to achieve something so that they can be recognized. Nothing wrong with achievement, but it's because of how it can easily be mistaken for identity by people, and they are not the same thing. Achievements and recognitions are important because they just help you to, measure how much growth or impact someone might have had. That's the importance of it. But then when we begin to take achievements as a person's identity, that's when it's misunderstood. Social media has even helped us to magnify how much achievement is a big part of our society today. That someone who doesn't really do something that is so, out there, so magnificent, will now feel like, okay, I'm not really doing anything that is big. We also see how the society also puts standards to things like beauty standard, body goals, and then when you don't have that outcome, you begin to compare yourself. So what is comparison? Comparison is using another person's life and their outcome as a measure of your own personal success and fulfillment. Comparison is such a deadly trap that it kills potential. Because what happens with comparison is, okay, take for instance, you see someone who is doing something that you actually want to. Because I've noticed that people that I usually compare myself with are people that are doing things that I actually want to do, and I'm like, okay, see how this person does it, see the way this person does their thing, I'm not sure I can do that. Then I'll just lay back and be like, there's no point in trying. So even before I started trying to achieve something, I've already limited myself because I feel like there's not enough room for me. In one video that I watched recently about comparison, the person said comparison just shows that you have a scarcity mindset, because if you check the root of what it actually is and where it's coming from a belief that you actually don't have enough, you are actually not enough. So comparison literally kills potential even before the potential starts to express. Comparison is not correct for any human being because we were all created uniquely, we were all designed differently. And we talk about this thing and it sounds like it's just motivation, but it's true. What baffles me the most about how different and unique we are is how people from the same parents growing in the same environment still have different expressions and personalities. That has a lot to tell us about how God decided to make us. And then also we have to look at background and environment differences. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Backgrounds and environment has a lot to do with people's results. For instance, there's this acquaintance of mine that she speaks so well. Like, if you are looking for a public speaker, I can just call her for you, and this is the definition of who a public speaker should be. And for someone who is aspiring to go in that line, I'm like, hi God. At one time I was like, oh, this lady, she has gone for what can I even do here? What, she has done it all. But then when I began to get closer to her, I now figured out that she had been doing this thing since she was little. Someone like me who didn't start from a very tender age, of course I cannot get that same result. But knowing that everything requires diligence and hard work, it's left for me to put in the work, the time, the resources that is needed to actually help me to understand my own expression, understand what I would bring to this niche. So just to give a fair balance to what we are talking about, comparison is not in sync with being a lazy person or being laid back or being complacent. Because sometimes we have the tendency to feel like, okay, I can't do this, I can't get to this level, I can't learn this thing. Then you're like, I don't want to compare my journey with another person. That's not what we're talking about. With where you are, with what you have, how have you maximized it? How have you looked at other people and learned strategies that they implemented in their lives that worked for them? Some reasons that can make people compare themselves: we have low self-esteem. That's not believing in yourself, not believing in your true worth, in who you are as the creator has made you to be. Then we have self-doubt, and then we have the scarcity mindset, as we mentioned earlier, which is a belief that there's not enough to go around. It's funny how with all the advancements in technology that this age has recorded, we are living in the times where people are the most insecure. So I'll be sharing some tips that has really helped me to stop comparing myself. Me saying that I've stopped comparing myself does not mean that I don't have those moments where I actually feel like I should compare myself. But immediately I catch myself going down in that line, I bring myself back and say, hey, Ruth, we're not doing this now. We are not doing this now. So the number one point is you need to make sure you are rooted in your identity and you know who you are. This statement sounds like a cliche because a lot of times we talk about it, we hear it, know who you are, do this. But it's literally the foundation on which your life will become fulfilled. A lot of people like to define knowing who you are as maybe know your personality, know your hobbies, your interests. Who you are is basically what God has said about you, because you cannot be independent of your creator. And I know this video is about comparison, but identity has a lot to do with this tendency to compare. If you don't know yourself, you will definitely compare yourself to another person. So identity is simply knowing what God had in mind when he was creating you. It's funny how in all this our mental health awareness in this age, we are talking about identity, and you are not emphasizing on the fact that identity does not start with the creation. It starts from the creator. A lot of us define ourselves aside from who the creator has made us to be. So when you hear me talking about identity, I'm not talking about the one that you give yourself. I'm talking about the one that God gave you when he made you. And we know that God created us to be with him, to be in relationship with him. So establishing that foundation will really reduce that tendency for us to begin to look at ourselves and compare, because we understand that he made us unique and he made us differently from each other. Another thing that has helped me so much in reducing this tendency to compare is how I chose to focus on my personal development, on my goals, on my aspirations, on my assignments. Let me say from the second half of this year, that's when I really understood what it meant to have a plan for your life. When you know the demands for the path that you are on, you will not have the time to compare yourself. You need 10 hours of study every day and you are very much aware. You will not look at another person's life and be like, oh, I want to be like this person, because you already have the direction, the blueprints for your own life. You're like, okay, this is where I'm heading to. It reduces that tendency. And this is the part where you can say, okay, don't compare your journey with another person's journey. But if you are there and you really don't have a plan for your life, you will definitely compare yourself. Focus on your personal development. Focus on studying. Focus on exploring. Focus on knowing your interests, your passions. Focus on those things. Just be someone who likes to learn from people. When you see an outcome, you're like, how do you do this? And I'm not saying become a pest. I'm not saying disturb the person, but you can really tell a lot about a person when you meet them, and or when you just observe them. You're like, okay, this is how this person does this. This is what this person does. Or even more interesting is how the person thinks. The last thing I'll be saying is to take inventory of your thoughts as much as possible. Like, this thing cannot be overemphasized, because we feel like, okay, now I'm not comparing myself with anybody, I'm okay. But by the time you go outside, or like someone will just call you and the person is already spitting out good news, like, I did this, I was able to do this, and you're like, oh my god, the tendency is coming back. You need to remind yourself over and over. Like, if you need to talk out loud, talk out loud. I find myself doing this a lot of times these days. When I just see somebody doing something that I actually want to do, and then I begin to compare myself, and I'm like, God, can I even do this kind of thing? I'll be like, no, I'm not going to accept, I'm not going to allow this. So you have to get that rigid about making sure that you don't compare yourself. As I said earlier, social media has magnified this comparison syndrome that we are hearing about every day. But I personally don't believe that social media is the reason that will make someone compare themselves, because social media is just a tool and it only reflects the mindset of the user. So if you notice that you compare yourself when you're on social media, you need to check what you have in your mind. Change your perspective to know that whatever you are seeing is a result and it's an outcome. And so what if the person has a good life? We are meant to be happy for each other. Another person's success is not your failure, because we often feel like, okay, this person has achieved this person has gotten this kind of recognition, what about me? But if the person has this kind of experience, it only says that there's still much more that can be gotten. Celebrate other people's wins. Another thing that I will also add is be thankful for where you are. Also, this sounds like a cliche because we hear it a lot, but Thanksgiving is so powerful that it just helps you to acknowledge what you have, and it brings an awareness that, okay, this is what I have now, let me see how I can maximize what I already have currently. Please don't be the kind of person that awakens the tendency in others to compare themselves. Be careful with your statements. Sometimes you might be okay with yourself until someone comes and begins to ask you very unnecessary questions. Like, your village people too can even help you to compare yourself. A couple just got married newly. Let's say they are not maybe 1 year and maybe they've not had a child or something. Someone will just come and ask, you never born pikin? These kinds of questions are very unnecessary. Like, what's your business? So please, if you are watching this video, don't be the kind of person that just raises up some unnecessary statements that just make somebody begin to overthink. So that's just to say how we are actually instrumental in another person's journey. We should learn to encourage people. If you stayed till the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear your experience, how you stopped comparing yourself, or what it has even done to you. I want to hear from you. Please comment down below. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel so that you can get updates when I post the next video.